illustrative kind of presentation and performance by actor-playwright Richard Chang of Citizen Wong.
I traveled with great ease across the country here, thanks to the great transcontinental railroad. Yes, that railroad that some of you, or your families, or friends built. I traveled this great distance because a great deal is at stake in this 1892 election year. Our livelihood, our families, our dreams of prospering in this gold mountain. It is heartening to see this beautiful gospel hall, this beautiful Phúc Yam Tong in San Francisco's Chinatown. San Francisco's Tongyan Gai is bustling with businesses of all sorts, people shopping and eating, street musicians, Hakka barber shops, tea houses. We love to eat, right? Yeah, and some of you ladies and children were even born here. In 1868, when I was here, some of you weren't even born back then. Tongyan Gai was just Sacramento, Stockton, and Kearney. And this church has a special meaning for me. Because your founder of this Methodist mission, the late Reverend Otis Gibson, God bless his soul, and his wife Eliza were great friends and allies of our community. You see, after a long trip to China, when I returned, Reverend Gibson received a tip-off in an anonymous letter that on board the same ship as I was were 14 young, innocent Chinese girls who had been sold into sexual slavery. He told the police, who conducted an investigation. Some of these girls were too scared to confess that they were sold or kidnapped. But some of them summoned up the courage to speak their truth. They were freed, and some of them moved into the Oriental Home and School on Washington Street. Some of them are here today. Ladies, please stand. Let us applaud them and celebrate their courage for speaking up their truth. Not long after, the San Francisco Chronicle identified that letter writer as yours truly. I was targeted by the human smugglers of the Hip Yi Tong, who chased me out of town. I've lived in New York and in the Midwest mainly ever since. But fear not, I'm back with police protection. Bear with me, for I, Wong Chin Foo, Wong Chin Foo, speak as the loudest voice for the Chinese in America. Yes, like many of you, I was born overseas, in China, in Shantung province. But I'm also, now and forever will be, a proud American. I was naturalized in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1874. That's why I called the newspaper that I published in 1883 the Chinese American, to declare that we can be who we are and Americans as well. The truth is that many of you, your friends, your relatives, came to Kamsan because you were invited here by the Central Pacific Railroad to build the great transcontinental railroad to join the east and west coasts of America. More than 15,000 Chinese were brought here with the promise of great wealth. So were Europeans, who were paid more and given full citizenship rights without any question. They filled the official photograph of the Golden Spike ceremony in 1868 when the railroad was completed. Let me ask, were any of your fathers, your friends in that photograph? No? No. You had no face in America's history. And when the economy tanked in the 1870s, who did they blame? I wonder. Us. You. We became the yellow peril, blamed for stealing jobs, spreading diseases, and peddling opium, which, by the way, was thrust upon China by the Western powers at the point of Christian bayonets. And yet Americans wonder why so many of us are heathens. How many times have you had your queues pulled by kids calling you a rat eater or Ching Chong Chinaman? How many times have you passed by seedy-looking men staring at you, muttering curses at you or to your face, telling you, go back to China? We're harassed, assaulted, and systematically being driven out of our communities. In Seattle and Tacoma, Washington, in Pacific Grove and Truckee, California, lynched in Los Angeles, Chinatown, Rock Springs, Wyoming, Hell's Canyon, Oregon, and right here in San Francisco. For 3 days and 3 nights in July 1877, Chinese residents and businesses were targeted, houses burned, looted by demagogues like Dennis Carney of this city, whose mission it is to eradicate Chinese from the continent. On this Constitution Day, when America's founding fathers signed the nation's charter 104 years ago, they declared, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." This applies to every one of us in America. This means you, in your Gamsan, your gold mountain. Yet, is this true? Former slaves now have the right to vote after Congress passed the 14th Amendment. Hallelujah! But women, our sisters here, are still fighting to have their voices heard. They still cannot vote. Chinese had that right until 1882, when Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act and snatched it away from us. Some of you refused to claim that treasure when you could, and lost it. But not forever. If we stand our ground, you deserve respect, equal pay, equal rights that are given to the Guaylo, the white Americans, especially since you helped to build this country. The politicians should serve you, not just the people who come here from Europe. our lawmakers gave bigots the right, the license to do this. When Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act on May 6, 1882, and enshrined hate speech into American law. It is the only American law that keeps anyone from entering based on race. We're banned from becoming citizens. We cannot vote. And dozens of states have passed alien land laws forbidding Chinese from owning real estate. Even now, all this violates the Burlingame Treaty, which the president signed in 1868. That treaty granted Chinese and Americans equal rights to study, work, trade, live freely in each other's countries. And just this January, Congress passed the Geary Act, renewing Chinese exclusion for another 10 years. Now, not only are we officially barred from entering the country, any Chinese already here must register for photographic identification papers that we must carry around with us night and day like dog tags. If not, we'll be deported or face 1 year of hard labor. The government says these dog tags are to protect you, to show that you are in the country legally. So why aren't Europeans required to carry these dog tags? Is it then a crime to be a Chinaman? Shall I be dragged from my bed at midnight because I refuse to be photographed? If such a cruel law had been practiced by Russia, India, or even China, we would have expected it and not have felt so deeply. Yet, a measure too cruel, too inhuman to be practiced by the most barbarous people on earth was so willingly signed by the American Congress and President Chester A. Arthur, a Christian president in this land of liberty and the oppressed of all nations. 150,000 human beings innocent of any crime will be forcibly taken from their happy homes and placed behind prison bars, simply because they were born in China. They will be made state criminals, and every one of us will have our picture taken for the National Rogues Gallery. The families that we have reared with care, the homes that we have built by long and weary years of toil will be scattered to the four winds. And by one single stroke of the cruel California Geary Act, every honest man of this mighty 150,000 will be made a pauper. No, 1,000 times worse than paupers. We will be shipped like cattle out of our beloved homes and from our country, which we have been taught to love as our own, and dumped upon foreign shores without friends, families, or means of support. Oh, California, your brilliant and illustrious Congressman Thomas Geary came up with this law. This same law that states if you are robbed, attacked, and almost killed by an anti-Chinese mob, as happened right here in this neighborhood in July 1877, you cannot testify in court. You cannot say, yes, that cruel white man did this to us, to my family, to my brother, my father, my friends, because you have no right to testify. The court will only listen to a credible white witness. Good luck finding that in a mob of racists. I will testify in Congress in January and urge them to do the right thing and repeal the Geary Act. The Chinese Equal Rights League, for which I am the secretary, is bringing together politicians, Christians, and Americans of all stripes to urge Congress to at least remove the new onerous demands on us. The New York Times says our league has not chosen a very favorable time to advocate for the repeal of the Chinese Exclusion Act. Quote, "It is asking too much to demand the Chinese here to forthwith be admitted to citizenship given the franchise of the nation." So why then are Europeans admitted, even ones who are not considered white, like Italians, Hungarians, and the alcohol-loving, pale-faced Irish? Is it because we are tea-drinking heathen? Oh God, God, is it possible that thou hast created one half to be the serfs and slaves of the other half? That they might be tortured and plundered with impunity, that cries of agony is but music to thee? No, no. Thrice I say no, that there is no such a God in heaven, that there is no such a tyrant on earth, and there is no such a cruel nation that should be permitted to do such a thing in this 19th century. I urge you all, freedom-loving Americans, to stand up to this injustice. Boycott the dog tag registration. It will be the largest act of civil disobedience ever in America. Let the government deport all 150,000 of us in America. Let it drain the treasury of the taxes that you and I paid to build this nation. We will not sit in silence and let the politicians walk all over us, blaming us for problems they refuse to take responsibility for. You must remember that the politician who lords over you today is an arrant coward who trims his sails to every breeze that blows. We are fighting for our future. So if you can, if you are eligible, make sure to vote in November. Vote for the politicians who will work with us, for us. If enough of us do this, we will be recognized as a force to be contended with. As residents of the United States, we claim a common manhood with all other nationalities and believe that we should have that manhood recognized according to the principles of common humanity and American freedom. That is why the motto of the Chinese Equal Rights League says, character and fitness should be the requirement of all who are desirous of becoming citizens of the American Republic. Let us unite and organize, because when we organize, mountains move. Thank God there is one spot in this great republic where its people are brave enough to stand up for principle and for oppressed humanity. Whenever the honor of the nation is at stake, or the cause of humanity's liberty is at stake, may the noble sons and daughters of California rise up to defend them. We are strong, especially when we come together. We change history when we speak out. Boycott the dog tag registration. and vote. United, we can change our future in this country and our children's future in the Gold Mountain. Don't keep your head down and do as you're told anymore. Stand up for justice and vote. Thank you. Rock Springs, Wyoming, Hell's Canyon, Oregon,